Hey everybody, welcome to a conversation on Mark. Today we're jumping into week 5. I think.
Yes.
Yeah. 5th week of Mark.
I like it. I really like Mark.
Chapter 5th week.
Chapter 5th week.
Chapter 5th.
Mark 4 is where we're at.
Week 5, Mark 4.
Week 5, Mark 4.
When you read stuff again and over again, or hear stories over and over again, is that something that you like, or is it the things become repetitive to you?
I will never watch a movie more than once.
That's what I thought.
I'm with Greg.
Never.
It has to be.
I mean, not never. There's a few exceptions.
I mean, there may be
but-
one or two that I would consider.
What's on your list?
But I get bored if I know
I
it's
don't know.
coming.
I like it because I can multitask. Like, if I know a movie really well, then I can, like, play a
Multitasking isn't
game.
real.
And, I know, but I can do... I can... Whatever. I learned how to...
You just
punch
want background
points.
noise.
Kind of, yeah.
You want to be able to take to quiet some of the noise in your head.
Yeah,
Let's be
that's
real.
right. Actually, okay, so it's not that, but I've been finding there's, like...
No, I'm pretty sure that's
it's part of it. Sometimes it's part of it. But I was like telling my husband the other day, I was like, there's certain things I know I have to do, but they're so boring that they put me to sleep. And so I have to have some excitement going on to like keep me awake enough to do them. It's not good. So sometimes it is background noise just to so I don't fall asleep.
I don't have fall asleep.
I do. It's like like something is so not stimulating that it puts me to bed. I think it's the ADHD stuff, but
I will not rewatch anything, but I also, most things, but I also don't want just a single thing. Like, I don't want an hour and a half of character development and then I never see those characters again. Like, I want to get invested and then watch a TV show for 7 seasons that has the same characters, or
but then I'll
read
do
a
it
series of
all
books.
in 3 days.
But yeah, but I will rewatch things if I'm watching them with Anna, because Anna is a rewatcher.
Do you rewatch TV shows more than the movies?
Yeah.
Yes, but very few.
Yeah.
I can only think of
I have a
one
few
or two.
like Christmas time movies that I watch every year that feels like
I have
You
0
know.
Christmas time movies.
I
I've
know.
never watched.
ever. They are not Lifetime Hallmark movies.
Die
They're like
Hard.
Elf. Yeah, Die Hard would be. If the kids were sleeping, Die Hard would be on the list.
Your Labor Day movies you watch every year.
Labor Day movies.
All my Arbor Day movies, those
Yeah.
The best ones about trees.
I will.
Lorax.
The Lorax.
I mean, there are some documentaries that I didn't watch. I would watch it twice.
Oh, I would never watch Die
I know.
Hard twice.
I know.
I would if it's because I
sounds
feel like there's
terrible.
so much.
It's long if it's something that is 2 categories. If it's a learning thing, or if it's just like if I like stories of growth or challenge or pain, and so I can watch those again.
Like learning things. Like my philosophy is if I like a class, if I go to a class and I didn't learn it in the class, it sucks. I'm not going back. I'm not taking that class again.
I have
Better figure it out some other way.
I have 2 classes in the master's program at North Central University that I could take again for free because I said I want my money back.
This podcast is not sponsored by
And just so you know, if you do that, apparently they will say, we will not give you your money back, but you're welcome to take the class again for free. And I said, over my dead body.
No, not happening.
But maybe someday I should just cash those in. Hey, I'm here. I'll just show up first class.
I'm in.
I was told I could take this for free, and I'm gonna.
Yeah. Yep. And since all those professors are no longer, I mean, that's great. I'll do
Moving on. Do-do-do.
I think the reason that, back to what we were talking about before, I think the reason that I don't rewatch things is because I live for the twist and I live for the lore.
Mm.
So it's like, if I know the thing, then I know the thing, and then it's not as fun.
Yeah.
So
My
Do
goal
you
is
find
to
yourself
figure out the
surprised by
thing.
movies? Or TV shows a lot?
TV shows more. Well, I go into it going, okay, I know there's going to be twists here, and I'm pumped for that. But most of the time, and Anna hates this, like episode 2, I'll go, so it's going to happen in the finale. And then it does.
That
But
happens
I still love it. I
with
still love
Mike
it.
and I was so proud of him because we watched something the other day, and I go, "Do you know what's going to happen?" He goes, "This," and I'm like, "You are so right." And I was like, "Look at you, we've grown."
But
I probably ruined television for him.
But the thing that I love is when I call something and that thing may happen, but then there's something else that I didn't see coming that happens alongside it, and I'm like, "Ooh, that's great!"
Yeah. I really do value the unpredictable. What was the game where everybody died?
Squid Game.
Squid Game. That had a good twist. I didn't see that one coming. I'm
I
like,
did not watch that one.
2's coming out soonish.
Yeah. It's great.
I feel like it's super rare for me to watch something and not see it coming.
Yeah,
Like there was
of course.
something I watched the other day and I didn't see it, and I was so happy.
And that's
It's
I
like a
look for
miracle.
those shows.
I know. If I can
Yeah,
remember
and
what it is,
that's-
I'll tell you.
And the other end of that, which is not me, people love, is those Hallmark Hall of
Yeah.
Fame movies, especially during
That
the
has a
holidays. And I'm
formula.
just like, yeah, they have one formula and it has 2 elements.
There's
Why-
somebody that moves to a new town,
Yeah.
and they are always, it's usually a woman. Woman moves to a new town, and just for some reason she's had her heart broken. And then there's this good-looking guy over here who just
Who's a
has to, who's a widow, and has to work really hard to get her to open her heart again, and then love.
Well, it's like it's why people like NCIS. Someone dies. They're affiliated with the Navy. They go and investigate. They find the guy who killed them. They go back and celebrate. Game
Yeah.
over.
And like a
25 seasons.
Yeah, well, it's the House, that doctor show, has no plot. It's just character driven.
So good.
There is no plot. It's the exact same show every single time.
It's Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Farm.
And so I have much less appreciation of that. I'm like, I'm sick of it. Like one episode would be great. And it just would take a lot for me to really buy into that character. And I did not buy into the House character.
Oh,
Or
he's-
Friends.
House is probably one of my all-time favorite shows.
Yes, please tell us about Friends.
That is a character driven show. There is no plot. There's no plot in Friends.
No.
It's all character driven. And I don't want to hang out with these people.
But one of your favorite shows is not, there's no plot. Seinfeld has no plot. Isn't that the whole thing?
It is
That
character
is-
driven.
it's
And I would
character
hang
driven.
out with these people.
Yeah.
These are my people.
And they're fun.
And they're terrible.
Yeah, the whole thing about
Terrible
Seinfeld, they're terrible
The
humans.
whole, yeah.
I know.
Seinfeld is my list. Is
Yeah.
the number one on my list of things I watch over and over again.
For the bass riff or for the characters?
That's a good question. They're about equally as good.
Yep.
I don't really like the bass riff.
You
You're
shut
wrong.
your mouth.
Shut your
We're gonna
mouth.
start using the Seinfeld bass riff in the podcast.
That'd be great.
Every time Scott says something he shouldn't have.
You can just play it over the top. Just play it over
Yeah,
the top.
just to mute you and then it's like our version of the beeping when someone says a bad word.
I listen to a pop culture podcast that when they get into questionable territory, it just cuts to elevator music for the next
Yeah.
little bit, and then it cuts back to them just dying, and
Oh.
then they continue on. But
you don't get to know.
Nope.
That's sad.
So I've never said those words.
Mhm.
I listened to this pop culture podcast.
Pop culture.
Is that like about Taylor Swift and stuff?
like 0.01% of it, she is in pop culture.
I tried.
That was mean. He's mean.
Well, this is the thing: is everything he just talked about is pop culture. He just
You're
doesn't
not
want to.
I know. I'm hipper than I know.
No,
That's
that's
not
not
true.
what you're saying.
That's not the thing.
Not it.
No.
Yep.
No.
Hipper than
Me
I
too.
know.
Me too. Oh,
What should have I said?
Nothing.
Nothing.
No,
nothing.
no, hipper. Hipper is on brand.
That was perfect. It's on brand.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Well, the reason I bring that up though is because I do think that like my appreciation of the Gospels has been it's been on a steady increase for a bunch of years, and it's so weird because I don't necessarily. I do like rewatching things, but I don't necessarily have a always increasing appreciation. I don't necessarily always, things don't necessarily have that depth, but they're pretty good. The Gospels are pretty good.
You're good. You can watch it in 4 different ways too. Same story from 4 different perspectives.
And this week,
Do you have a favorite?
I would have said that Mark was my least favorite, but I have a grow. I
love
like.
Mike.
Yep. And so I
I've
like.
been enjoying Mark much more than our John series.
That makes
I don't know
total
why.
sense to me.
I'm not sure why.
Why does that make sense?
It's Mark is so much more system.
It's process.
Yeah, system and process.
And John wants.
John
You
is
can
so
feel it.
deep and emotional.
It's gross.
Matthew is the like in between. It's just kind of like here's a story of Jesus.
Yeah.
TV show. It's the NCIS of the Gospels. And then Luke is part 1 of 2.
Mark almost feels like a take it or leave it approach. Like you can either participate or not. Like it's here for you. Which,
I also like it's always everything's urgent. It's immediate. We got to do this now. Like everything's forward motion.
Well, it feels like
Yeah, Jesus was born 30 years later.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I feel like Mark, as a tactician of writing, I feel like Mark probably wrote 100 pages, and he goes, "All right, nobody's gonna read this." And then he goes, "You got it down to 70 pages," and goes, Let me get it a little bit more concise." And then, I like, this is what Greg likes. It's like that whole birth stuff. Yeah, who cares? Who cares?
Luke, what'd you do? 2 chapters.
I like, and I like it too. Is like he goes. Mark would say, so he went out in the wilderness and fasted, and he did this alone. Yeah, we don't know. Next. Next.
yeah.
And then he goes, in a greater picture, he goes, the religious authorities, they asked a bunch of questions to him. Let me think of 6 times that were really good. I'll put those right here. And then he goes, all right, he's shared hundreds or thousands of parables. He even shared some of them repeatedly. Here's 4. Let's do that. And then the next chapter, which we're going to get to next week, is like, there were some moments that were just insane. His power, what he did here. And so the Gospels are not, there was a degree for sure of history, but they're written not with the fact or the intentionality of going like, and then next what happened? And next they're written with an intention of the process. And Mark is really good. He's just like, he's cutting a lot, which is that's part of the point.
I like it too.
It's the blog of Jesus instead of the novel.
Yeah,
It's palatable.
yeah, and
It's the TLDR.
because all of the Gospels could be, a Harry Potter book, just huge, just talking about Jesus. They 14 volumes, and the beauty of story of narrative and its complexity is its conciseness and what isn't there. So sad.
Well, I think too, like just in studying it, there's all these people talk a lot about what's omitted and what that means and why that matters. And I like that. I just like that it's concise, and I like that there's some little pieces that you're trying to figure out, like, why are these stories put together? Like he does over and over again. He does this ABA framework where there's a story, and then there's a story within the story, and that story within the story somehow tells a piece of the bigger story, and they seem unrelated, but they are related. I like that there's all these little nuggets to figure out.
Yeah, and most people, for sure, me, I would hope to write with some degree of intentionality, but I don't necessarily write in style form. And so much of biblical writing is written in a form, and the form is part of its art, its craft, and its communication tool, not just like good punctuation. There's style and intentionality to it, which is incredible. And I think that's part of the beauty of what we look at here today in Jesus as he shares his parables, is that it's pretty easy to go, to draw a simple parallel to it's a challenging day, like a snow emergency. Like, what is that? Sure, that's some degree of parable, I guess. But for Jesus to share these groupings of parables that have so many layers of intensity and intentionality. And then for Mark, the beauty of Mark is to pull these here together and to start to draw an invitation, like Greg said, an invitation to the process, an invitation to the system. And you can either take it or leave it. And you can either hear it or not hear it is like level one, but can you engage it is really where the value is at. So so the parables, and I did some writing even this morning about the intentionality or the chaos of these things. He talks about sowing seeds in good ground is this focus point of this parable, and modern context of making ground into good ground is it's so expensive, it's so hard, it's so challenging. There's so many layers to it, but historic concept of taking unbroken ground and turning it into good ground is like, it's amazing that anybody did it. The only reason that somebody would do it is because if we don't, we will starve and die.
Do we know where geographically Jesus was telling this parable at?
He probably told it a bunch of places, and it wasn't Nebraska or Illinois or even here. It wasn't like this beautiful lush ground.
No, I mean which is super cool that you're going to get a chance to see some of those places, but I think this was probably in the Galilee region somewhere.
Yeah.
Would be my guess. And well, it's not straight desert. Pretty dang close.
Yeah.
Pretty dang close.
Yeah, and so if you're looking at, you're in an arid climate, and there's thin topsoil, there's just a few things that grow, and you want to live. The concept of making ground good was just so hard, and if in a subsistence culture, you would spend a majority of your time as a subsistence culture farmer person. You'd spend a majority of your bulk of your time trying to make that ground at least sustainable, if not a little bit better. And so it's like, so you put that into perspective, you bring that and go, we're supposed to be good ground. It's like, yeah, I did that one time. Like, yeah, right.
Well, I think too, like when we talked about this a little bit, but like when I feel like growing up reading the story of the parable of the sower, like it talks about like throwing the seed and it lands in good ground or it lands in the, bad ground or over on the stone, whatever, all that. Like, I felt like it just happened. Like, it wasn't anything to do with me. Like, it was like just by some sort of, something, I was either good ground or bad ground and didn't really think about how much work it was for me to be good ground.
Yeah. And then you go to the next parable. It's the parable of the lamp. And Greg and I have talked about this before. It is insane that you can get a gallon of gasoline for under $4, right?
The gas is cheaper than milk.
Yes.
Me.
And so, and so in our modern context, you go, and then somewhere else, not in Minnesota, somewhere else in the world, somebody is breaking a hole in the ground and pulling out goo and refining it into something that either natural gas or whatever, and turning it into, burning it, turning it into steam, turning it into electricity.
Styrofoam cups.
Yes. But in modern context, light it's ridiculous how valuable light is. I don't understand how gas can be so cheap, or that we turn on our lights and we don't go, quick, turn them off. It's burning millions of dollars. That's remarkable. The historic concept of light is that it was to light up a room was not like an available concept. It's like, flick the switch. It was effort, took a lot of effort. And so the concept of that, to just go, if you have a lamp and you're just going to hoard it for yourself or cover it up with a bowl, what are you doing? And so to have that perspective, what God has given to you, why would you really, it takes so much.
Yeah.
You become good ground, and then what you're going to do is cover it up? That's insanity. So that second level, And so
Not
that's
to take any I feel
Yeah.
like pressure, I
That's
can't do it. Never mind. I mean, not really. Never mind, but
Yeah.
it's hard. Ugh.
And then the third parable is the parable of seeds grow. Doesn't matter what the farmer does. And I think, again, modern context, hybridization, the concepts that you can make seeds or plants that are drought resistant, pest resistant. They can. It's so crazy. So Roundup kills everything. It kills all plants.
Mm-hmm.
Roundup. You can, through genetic modification, you can make corn or soybeans that are Roundup tolerant.
Yeah.
And so think about how all of that work on a seed so that you can spray poison on a plant and it kills all of the grass and all the other weeds, and it doesn't kill it because of what's been done to the seed. But even with all of that, in the end, you put that seed into the ground, it still has to grow, which is outside of our influence or concept. And so historic concept, they were taking something that they could have eaten and they are putting it in the ground going, well, I hope this makes more than I'm giving up.
Yeah.
And so that concept, again, of just going, God has got to do his end of the deal. So we have to be good ground. We can't just hoard it for ourselves or cover it up. That doesn't make any sense. And then go, and God's going to do his part. And that as a farmer, every year that they would, if farming ends when somebody goes, we want to eat more than we want to plant.
Yeah.
And that is it's a really heavy thing that you're going to say, our family is on the edge of starvation, but we can't eat this because we need it next year.
Yeah.
Because we trust that God's going to do something with this. That hearing this parable from that perspective has so many layers of power and impact. Then the last one, the parable of the mustard seed, that something small, so that again with that picture of seeds, you could have a handful of mustard seeds in your hand. Is not impressive, but what could come out of that handful of seeds is mind-blowing. And so Jesus is going in the end of this, he goes, you have responsibility in ground, you have responsibility not to quench it or hoard it, and God's going to do his thing. And if it works, even just a little bit of that is going to blow your mind. And it's, I feel it in my own struggle, is that I feel like I get to the end of all that and I just go, look, great. After all of that, me doing my thing, I guess, and God, you doing your thing, I guess. This is all I got? That's stupid. It really, and last week was our 17-year anniversary as a church, and you just go, great. This is it? After all that, this is it? And this parable, Jesus going just like, you this is what you see, but remember the complete impact. And so, I think these parables are good.
I appreciate your farming knowledge on this. I mean, I feel I feel like I know you have to make good ground, and I can make my little garden this big, maybe okay, but really considering the work involved in all of it is big, and understanding, like you were saying, the desert and where they're coming from and where they're at. And like you read these stories and it's so easy to just think of how I just flip on a light and not think about how hard it is or any of that. And it's this community that's hearing this story, it's so different.
Yeah, if you've ever grown a seed, just put a seed in soil and had it grow, and that's hard today. It's exponentially harder when you're not buying your dirt, when you're not buying your seeds.
I can go to Ace Hardware and get what I need.
Modified to grow quicker and easier. When you don't have grow lights. There's so many, you don't have water on tap on your hose. There's so many levels of it that are outside of our perspective that when you actually look at it, you're like, oh,
this was a work.
There's also
this didn't just happen.
If golf or disc golf, whatever, if you're one throw, you say you're just going to putt this 20-foot putt, try to do it, great. But if you say, all right, if you make it, you live, and if you don't, you die. You throw differently. And the thing is so like we say in modern context of farming or planting, it's like, I made a perennial plant look pretty this year. When these people talked about farming, it was like, hey, we're not trying to.
Nothing needs to be pretty.
We're not trying to grow plants because it's
attractive.
it
Yeah.
makes air,
Yeah.
whatever. They're
I
saying
get to pick
which-
my tomatoes instead of buying them.
yeah, I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My heirloom tomatoes are so good this year. Yeah. And that it's not that ancient. You know, when you think back to historically, like the potato famines that happened in Europe, you just go like, man, they must have really loved their fries. No, it's when a crop didn't make it, there was incredible consequences to it.
Yeah.
And so when you think about the call to be good ground, we think about it. It's so easy again to think about it in the context of like, yeah, that'd be cool. God would do great things to me. Maybe I could do something impressive for Jesus. And the historic constants that it's the tone of Jesus is going, yeah, cool for Jesus is like, I don't actually care. You should do this to live.
Yeah. I feel like for us, this like in modern days, you know, eating is easy, but not eating is hard, you know, like I was trying to figure out a way to say that.
Yeah, what's the inverse
But, like,
parable?
yeah,
I
like
might understand that
we
better.
had a table full of bread, and I said, "No, thank you. That's a miracle." Okay, like no, but like the hard things that are now are so different than this, and it's like, what are the hard things now to think through this? Like, I mean, being healthy, I think, is not quite it, but like when you think about what people consider healthy, like eating well and exercising every day and all of these things, when everything is just handed to you, like,
yeah,
it's not it. I mean, this seems like so much harder, but like it's harder work than
and Jesus
what
was
is hard.
Jesus' conversation here was not to point out that living is hard or subsistence is hard, which it was, but it was to show the degree of intentionality and intensity that needs to come to our faith.
Right, which
And
is
that
what
is
I'm trying
responsibility.
to,
Responsibility.
Yeah.
And
that's what I'm trying to think of is like, what is something equal today that takes intentionality and responsibility and
parenting, spousal,
yeah.
friendship. But it's very easy to have, again, the call of these parables to us in our modern context. If there's something in me that goes, yeah, Christianity's pretty cool, seems to make my life a little better. And I think, you know, these parables will go, sure.
Sure.
But just so you know, that might not work out for you. If you say Christianity, man, you know what? It's that way. I don't have to worry about hell. Whatever. Like, there's how can we? Mark is the invitation to Mark is walk into the process, and if we hear these parables and go, they're pretty cool. But if we hear these parables and what Mark is hoping, the Gospels are hoping, is that we go, ooh, where am I in this? And how can I walk in this even deeper?
Yeah, it's good. I think
I
the
like
conversation's gonna be good on Sunday.
I enjoyed this conversation. This is good.
See you guys next week.